Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mitchell's Childhood Memories, episode 12. In previous stories, I think I've amply demonstrated that I was very blessed to have a tremendous support system in my childhood, support system for my family, for my community, from my school, from my many friendships. And there was one more pillar of that support system, which I'd like to talk about today, and that was my local Jewish synagogue and Hebrew school. When I was about 8 years old, my mom sent me to Hebrew school, and I stayed there for the next 5 years, preparing for my bar mitzvah. At 13, that's when a Jewish person becomes a man. It's a very important ceremony, and so I went to Hebrew school for about 5 years to prepare. Now I would go to my secular school from 9 to 3, and then I come home, have a glass of milk and some cookies, and then off to Hebrew school, and I would come home for dinner. Now, basically, my nature is I'm not a very religious person, and nowadays I would call it more spiritual in nature. But nevertheless, I really enjoyed Hebrew school very, very much. I loved learning about the Jewish traditions, Jewish philosophy, Jewish culture, Jewish history, and it meant so much to me. It just gave me inspiration. The head rabbi, Rabbi Germain, I had a lot of respect for him. One of the teachers there who taught me frequently, his name was Rabbi Beluth, and he was amazing. He was also so inspirational. And I love the fact that I learned the language of Hebrew, the language of my ancestors. That meant a lot to me also. And of course, I made new friends there from outside my immediate neighborhood. There were many other boys I met, and I became friends with them. So it was just a win-win situation. I think my two favorite holidays were Passover and Hanukkah. And these were happy holidays, and to me, very, very meaningful. Passover is a celebration of freedom. It tells the story of Exodus, the Jewish march to freedom from Egypt and going to the land of Israel, and it's celebrated by a magnificent dinner called a Seder. And this I had at my grandma and grandpa's house, Grandpa Dave and Grandma Anna. And every year we would have the Seder there. And they must have worked so hard, maybe for days, to prepare this unbelievable feast. And everything we had at that meal had a symbolic meaning for the story of Passover, like the matzah, which we had, the matzah bread. Because Jewish people didn't have time to bake bread, so this is a flat bread which they had running from Egypt. Then the bitter herbs, it represents the bitterness of slavery. But every time we had the Passover, it made me think: what did it mean to be a slave, or what did it mean to be free? And these are questions that are relevant throughout history. In fact, relevant to this very day. I was very proud because the youngest Jewish boy, and that was me, was chosen to ask my grandfather for 4 questions about Passover, which elicited the whole story. And I was very proud because I was able to ask those questions to my grandfather. I asked him in English, the same questions in Hebrew, and the same questions in Yiddish. And then my grandfather Dave would give the answer, and I would follow along. He would say in Hebrew, and we all had this special book called the Haggadah, and we'd follow along. From time to time, we would stop, and we'd all sing happy songs together, famous songs. Then the reading would go on. We'd sing again, and it was like everyone was into it. It was such a small apartment, crowded with people, but it didn't matter. We were all having a great time. And finally, at the end, we had the great, fantastic festive meal. And we all went home very, very, very happy and inspired. My next favorite Jewish holiday was Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. I really have somehow light is something that light speaks to me. It's very, very important to me. And I just love the fact of celebrating light, the victory of light over darkness. In this case, the victory of the Jews getting their temple back in Jerusalem, and the miracle that light stayed lit for 8 days when there was only enough oil for it to be for one day. It was like a miracle. And that's why we light candles on Hanukkah. And I remember with fond memories, my mom and I would light candles together and sing the prayers. And I just loved it so much. And sometime during the 8 days of Hanukkah, we would always have a huge Hanukkah party. We'd get together. A large group of our family, they would rent a venue, and we'd all get together. And at the venue, there was food, and the adults would be talking to the adults. The children, we opened up our presents. It was like Hanukkah is like the Jewish Christmas. And we'd open up our presents and we'd show it to each other, and we got a new fire truck and new this. We were so happy running around, and it was a great time. I had a couple of very eccentric relatives who came to this festival, and I'd like to tell you about that. Very quick story. One is my Uncle Sam, very unusual man, because he had this one terrible habit, which he did every Hanukkah. He'd go around to every dad, every father, and he'd ask them this question. He'd say, "So, how's your financial situation?" What? You go around to a person and ask, this is crazy. But he did it all the time. And if you wanted to give him the correct answer, it's a very Jewish thing. You could just say simply, "I'm comfortable." That's all. No details, I'm comfortable. If you want to say something more, say, "I make a living." Then Uncle Sam was happy and he went away. That's how you took care of Uncle Sam. Another eccentric person was my Aunt Tybal. Now, my Aunt Tybal, she was really different. She dressed with a beret on her head, and she always wore these dark sunglasses indoors. And she looked more like a gypsy or a fortune teller than the Jewish grandmother. And I noticed one time that she was sitting alone, not talking to anyone else, and I felt sorry for her. So I went over to Aunt Tybal. I'm just a boy. And I say, "Aunt Tybal, how are you?" And Aunt Tybal replied, "Don't ask." Then she said loud, "Don't ask." Then she said loud, "Don't ask." And I'm so, oh my God, maybe she's terminally ill. I asked a stupid question. I was about to go away. She dragged me back. And she said, "Let me tell you all about it." And once she got me, she spoke for 1 hour. And she told me about her famous relatives in Russia and the famous relatives in Europe and the famous relatives in England and all sorts of miraculous stories. Wow. I mean, I don't know if they're true or not, but did I have an experience? She was a real character. And in addition, we had family gatherings, Jewish family gatherings outside. We had picnics. Every summer we had a picnic, and a large group of our family would go. We'd get there really early in the morning, Hempstead State Park. We've got the best barbecue pits, best picnic tables. Oh, and we were so happy to see each other, and we were joyous. Our cousins met cousins, and it was so great. And all the grannies made this fantastic foods. These starters were so amazingly delicious. Then we went and played. The boys went and we played baseball game. But this is different. We had an intergenerational baseball game. Like when I played at home, I'm 10 years old. I played with 10-year-old boys. Here we had 4-year-old players, 9-year-old, 13, 22, 54. We all gathered together. We took 10 and 10, and we had an amazing baseball game, and it was fun. It didn't matter who won or lost. The little boy would hit the ball and run, and we'd clap, and the little boy would be so happy. And we came back, and we had this amazing barbecue. Wow, what amazing food! And we came home so happy. On the other side of my family, we had my grandma Rose. We also had this amazing family get together. And my Uncle Jaime, the patriarch of that family, would give every child a silver dollar. Wow, a silver dollar was like $1 million to us little children. And we went home so happy. So you can see that from how I'm describing these stories, that I was so blessed that my idyllic childhood had such support from so many areas, but including from my Jewish synagogue, my Jewish Hebrew school, and my Jewish heritage. Thank you very much.